Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, King Dio, Lauren Frey, Grim, Clover, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Recently, I have made my opinions clear on comic book heroes, or cape shit, as I like to call them. Specifically, like the very popular heroes, like Batman and Spider-Man. I've kind of been making fun of off and on over the past couple of weeks. I've made some choice comments about Batman in particular, and a lot of people were intrigued about my opinion on this subject. And it's one of those things I think that's well worth talking about because comic book heroes, I think, are the sort of thing that are introduced to you very young. So young that you don't actually think critically about what's happening, why it's happening, why certain creative decisions were made, who these characters are, what their objectives are, what their morality is. Like they're just sort of there, an ever present figure in your life. And you sort of grow attached to them because of that without really consuming the media in question or really stopping to think about like its history or its impact or the impact it's had on society. And upon like going back and watching a lot of the superhero shows that I grew up with, namely Batman the animated series, Teen Titans, Superman the animated series, Batman Beyond, stuff like that. And upon realizing that, like, this stuff isn't nearly as good as it's made out to be, I kind of have. First of all, I believe that cape shit is on the way out. I think like once the people get tired of the endless rehashes of superheroes we've already seen before on the big screen, and once like the fad ends, I think superheroes are going to be put into a pit that they're never ever going to be able to climb back up out of, because there's really nowhere else to go from here, right? Like we have plenty of animated shows, endless animated shows. We have a myriad of mediocre movies, and the comic book sales are going down, down, down. And the comics in and of themselves are so convoluted, so long, and just so impossible to keep up with, so self-contradictory. It's the point where I don't think anyone could reasonably expect to get into the comics unless you're a spurg who likes going over just how all of these characters have changed over the years. When it comes to the actual artistic merit of comic books, I find them to be very, very lacking compared to its contemporaries and compared to other mediums. Like comic books might actually be the lowest form of media in existence. Uh, like I just can't think of anything that has been so derivative and so uninspired for the past 70 years. It feels almost as if the only reason they're relevant is because they're so terrible, right? I think there's a very good reason why storylines like the Clone Saga and One More Day are kind of like the most discussed things in the comic book world, because it feels like these heroes are more defined by their failures than any real accomplishments on their part. Because when you get right down to it, Batman has accomplished absolutely nothing in his 70-year run as a superhero. When you get right down to it, Batman has made no reasonable contributions to Gotham. He's done nothing to stop any of his foes, and the way things seem to be going with the DC universe, right? With the way these things always seem to plan out, is things always, always seem to get worse because of Batman's inability to stop the villains from from accomplishing anything. And that's kind of what I would like to discuss today is just my view on what a comic book hero is, because it feels almost as if the idea is to present this worldview. Well, in all of media, we've known this for a while. Like media in recent years has been accepted as being a means to control the population and make it believe certain things about the world and the people in it and things like that. Well, Western media is essentially propaganda, right? And uh, upon going back and looking at Batman in particular, and just looking at how this character is presented, like it feels almost as if Batman as a character is meant to be propaganda to convince the public that good billionaires are able to like should be allowed to sort of exert their power and influence to do with society as they see fit. Because Batman, vigilantism, he's essentially going around fucking with other people's businesses, fucking with like low level criminals, like punching people in the face, like he's essentially ignoring the due process, the actual established law in this case to go about to do things via his own methods. And the justification for this is that like, oh man, Gotham City, it's so corrupt, it's not worth like you can't save it. But how exactly? Why is Batman not fixing the system then? Like it comes off as if Batman, you know, being a rich, affluent billionaire who probably doesn't pay taxes, is just is just helping society by doing absolutely nothing. Like it feels almost as if going out dressed as a bat, fighting criminals, is more for his validation, for his sense of self worth, for his vengeance against the criminals of Gotham, rather than like what's actually best for society, right? Like never in a Batman story is it ever brought up that like you know Commissioner Gordon should be doing more to deal with the problems in Gotham. Like nowhere do like the regular police really rise up and do something about the problems. Like you don't see normal people like really accomplishing much of anything in Gotham City. Like it's always Batman, it's always Bruce Wayne, it's always like this billionaire going out and making things right for everyone, being a shill for like overreach, essentially, like authoritarian overreach. We've seen this in like the Dark Knight movies, actually. Again, I haven't watched the Dark Knight or in years, but from what I remember, before I established my contempt for this kind of thing, again, there's like a scene in the Dark Knight or the Dark Knight Rises, I don't remember, where Batman kind of violates everyone's privacy in order to like track down the Joker and try and find them. Like I think it has something to do with like cell phones and like hacking into all of them and like being able to like create a surveillance state in Gotham for a short period of time in order to find the Joker, in order to stop the Joker, and like he has a dialogue with like Lucius Fox or something about how like, oh man, this is dangerous. Like this is a one-time thing. It's not going to be a one-time thing. Like Batman's going to do it again and again and again and again and again to stop the Joker, but every single time things will get worse every single time. And that has been the progression we've seen in these storylines throughout the years is that things are always getting worse. From Joker, I don't know, gassing fish to make them smile to nuking Metropolis. Like it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And there's really no reason for it. Like if you simply got rid of the Joker, you know, capital punishment, it wouldn't be a problem. Like there would be no problem. Batman has simply failed to. Batman seems to be propaganda for this notion that like the general population in any given society is incompetent and corrupt and can't handle anything on their own. That Batman is going to have to step in and uh, and keep things as they are, keep them from getting worse. Like Batman has to utilize his vast resources, his infinite amount of wealth to just oppress the civilian population and just accomplish that. Like like Mr. Freak, why doesn't Batman just pay for Nora Freeze's operation? Like if he did that, that would eliminate Mr. Freeze's entire motivation for existing. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things he could do as a normal person to just undercut all of like all the shady stuff going on in Gotham. Like just be a good person is all you really need to do to make things better in your life and for those around you. And Batman, I think we see this a lot in Batman Beyond, is fundamentally not a good person because everyone he ever interacted with, everyone he ever grew close to, everyone who ever cared about him is pushed away. And the narrative tries to make it out to be that like, oh man, they just don't understand him. Bruce is too committed to his cause. They weren't as serious about this as he was. But like in reality, Batman grew up to be a lonely, bitter old man with nothing but his wealth. That's Batman. This is how the establishment kind of sees themselves. This is how like they see normal people. They see themselves as Bruce Wayne, like fixing the problems, but really they're only making things worse. Batman is just a failure as a human being, a failure as a superhero, and is all around not a character you should be supporting.